Hello, this is the last video of the approach of echo-localizations on letters, as if they work like that, as echo-localization, so that we can localize each letter in space, in time, and its bigger context. Let's explain the full context of this in this video, so that you will have the impression that in just one look you will have a place for each letter in the scope of what we see immediately. And what do I use for that? Of course, my scheme is still there, but I will, even for those people who succeed to continue to look at it, they will also have maybe even more simplifications that makes it more practical. And we start with a lot of focuses which are in between the reachable space. So here they are. This is the space close by, and it's best maybe to put it into one vision so that I can see it into one vision. So it's the starting point of a space that I can distinct, or until a certain border K, and within that I have I have a focus that is very focused, that I can know, okay, this is a physical reference point, I can use it, that's the T. A little bit further away, so that's a spatial that has a spatial frame outside yourself, or it's more general, so these are the spatial references that are extending away from you, that will also after a while will show you the context, just like the U, L and B will show you how they are evolved in time, but here they are a bit further away and they are more general focuses in space. These are the 9 focuses in space. We also have focuses in time, and also there can be derived like that. You can see how D, N and Y are actually physical orientations, but they are getting a reference frame in time. So that's why we don't immediately see where D is, but we will get to know where it is because we have a time frame. The N, the same thing. We have an object. What its purpose, how we can use it, will gradually be shown in a time frame in a certain, after a certain while. The same with the Y. It's a goal of reaching an object or reaching something, and it can only reach after going to through the whole process. The focuses of the time frame itself are E, O, Z and W, where we start deliberately our communicative changes in time via E, O and the W and the Z. If they are really far away, also in the system that we don't really see, like I don't know how it really is fitting into the scheme, so we try to get out a moment by context. We have the G, F and P, and that's already an association with the context, and now I was going to explain the context. But first, a little bit closer to what we have. So we already have then a spatial frame and a time frame. Basically, it's all happening at the same time. And the context, what is the context, is actually the big frame in which everything fits, until where I can see things. This is the context. So it's like, I have here the globe here in which the associations will be made. I can't go beyond the horizon, can't do that. But within the scope of what I can reach and understand, I can also have association with that mathematical, until where it is, until the infinity, until the 0 point, in between 0 and infinity, we will be able to focus on the real objects, of course. So a resume of everything I have was ATK was our starting point. U, L and B were the changed starting point, so they're starting points from somewhere else. which we gradually will get to know how it is in communication and so on. So that's the next level. And the C, M, and X are the contextual starting points. These are what we have in the spatial frame. The next ones, and of course A is then the starting reference, the T is then the vertical or the vertical association that you lift out something that you can use, and the K is the diagonal where you can say, okay, this is the H. So this also horizontal, vertical, diagonal as geometrical frames. That's another complex system of combinations. If you want to really go into that, that's another association which I will not make now. This is about the immediate references that you can see immediately. So D, N, and Y are the incomplete starting points, because they are incomplete because they have a time frame to follow. E, O, Z, we are following the time frame, so they are the changing positions and so on, which they followed a process in time so that they could change and express changes and so on. And the G, F, and P are the contextual changes. And then we come to, of course, to the context itself, which are also, it's actually the big frame. So what can we use in a frame? And actually the E is what can I fit in as that I can use in on every level. Actually it is, I used this echo-localization frame for it, and that's my idea of E that I use for it, and the border of it until where I can look at the idea, how it's progressing and how it's fluctuating, is the S. That's the last two letters in this system, and this is the essence of that system. So basically we have our focus on ATK in the physical frame. We have our focus in the time frame in the middle there, A, O, Z, and W, that we follow processes in time very easily. In the W it's at the end, and the Z it's in the beginning. In the O it's taken out, and the A is the starting point of a reference that is about to change, something that is about to change, also that shows you some changes and so on. Or some length in the physical object can already be an association. The E is then the large context frame, and the S is also at that large context frame. And then you see these frames in between, H, R, and then the smaller ones, Q, V, G, as places, placements that are dependent on context. The H and R are time frames dependent on context, and E and S are the context, are an expression of the context. So you see here, you can also have that in 1, 2, 3 again. So we have this one focus in T. You have two focuses, so in between, before and after, that's the time frame. And then you could say there are 3 frames, but it is actually the border frame with, something I can't grasp anymore. That's the border until where I can grasp everything is framed in the E and S. I will show it a bit more clear afterwards, but first we have to notice our we have to realize that we try every letter is as quickly as possible going towards like an echolocalization in our ear, the balance in our ear, or like looking for balance. We try to look for balance in space first, very quickly via A. And then we have the first echolocalization in space, is this echolocalization where you can find the positions. The is a moment, is one moment taken out in time, in which N as a physical object fits, that you can use that in time. So that's the position of N, which is also very clearly visible where it is in the system, in its logic and so on. And then the last frame is of course the big context, in which you also see a position for H, where it is in the time, which is progressive in the time frame evolution of context, where the V is showing you the direction to where it's going. So also these letters fit to make them comprehensible where they are in the system and into the context of system. So here you have these time frames. So it's of course you start with D, N, and Y in the physical plane, but they are dependent on time. A, R, and W and Z are the time frame, and G, F, and P are the context of the time frame. And you have these three waves of fluctuations of a starting point, highlight, and diminishing or ending of the process, in which you can find all the possible associations. So in between the zones you have this E is the starting point of my idea. In this case, my idea is the echo-localization of a fluctuation that we see. I have a starting point, I have a highlight, and I have an ending, and all my system of thinking is based upon building up further within the context of S. The E, my idea, is this E that I use in my context. If I use a different idea, the balance will be different. The how it looks like will be different. And the frame is also your thought frame in which everything should fit. So I'll talk about these things later. But first, let us express what we have. So the E is an idea which works on all levels. So it will fit on the physical level. There you will find where it fits. The same pattern will fit there. It's smaller. It's smaller, of course, in that physical plane. It's a bit bigger in that temporal plane of time, and it will be large because it will reflect how well I have a system within the context in the last context frame. So the E is really on all levels. It is the same thing, it's the same wave that you have, and the wave itself, it cannot be, you can't see every moment of the wave, because there's a part, as you see, this closed eye at the end. There's a part which is already going beyond the dome, beyond the frame of infinity of your frame of visualization. So there's a part that you can't hear, or you can't see, or can't visualize. So we have to focus on the parts we can see. These borders are seen in the S, while the E is the pattern that fits in. So then you can express it a little bit better of a combination of patterns and of a frame. Here's the pattern that I can use, the E part. So that's my idea that will work well on each level, and it will vibrate here also in time, and where I will have an echolocalization in space, this echolocalization or vibration in time, and this echolocalization in context. And the S will frame my borders. So if I have the big globe or a dome, let's say, in which all my references are, the S is of course the border of this dome, and the E is what I can put in as a system. So C will be on the top of the dome, and will say, yes, I will have a possibility to use my idea everywhere. C will be the idea that I can use the time, I can understand it via the time frame, and the Sa will be the understanding that I will have a certain limit of understanding of what is happening with my ideas within the physical plane. Some examples with C are of course always about what fits within my context, and I can think about it and interpret it, like C itself, yes. Simple is also such a context orientation. Sick is sin is such a context orientation. Singing in a way is it's of course very much on the time frame, but it is still interpreting on a context, so the starting point of si should be clear enough. Se, that's done on a time frame dependent, so it's dependent of my system where I experience it. The sex, of course, that's dependent on that time frame interaction, not just about context, but it is in this interaction of communication or scent as well, and physical associations like sa with its borders, that I say until here I can experience it and I can interpret it. Sap, for instance, the sample, the sand, it all has no definite borders. It's going beyond its borders, but you can interpret it. That's the sa association that you can have there. Anyhow, I had a few very small examples, but I will go in the next video. Again, I will stop the theory, and I will still have just one example of a few more difficult words with time within it, that are related with time, that are immediately recognized by knowing what I showed you today. Anyhow, this was the last of this series. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks again for watching. Bye bye.